I feel like the last few seasons, with the NBA's revelation towards three-point shots, as well as the influence of the Golden State Warriors, the power forward position has been in a bit of flux. We still have remnants of the old-style power forward, one who is primarily around the basket and doesn't really stretch out to the three-point line. Guys like perhaps Zach Randolph or Blake Griffin, for example. But then there's also guys who have completely adapted to the modern-day style, the Draymond Greens and the Paul Millsaps of the world, the Dirk Nowitzkis, of course. So the power forward position is a very interesting one in the NBA today. So we might as well talk about the top 5 power forwards in the league at this moment. Number 1 is still Anthony Davis. I know the Pelicans had a really crap season. They had a lot of injuries. I think if everybody would have been healthy, if Anthony Davis would have been healthy, he would have still been number 1 here. He's probably the 6th best player in the NBA, and he was thought of as the clear-cut MVP for this season, who leads the Pelicans to like the 5th or the 4th seed in the Western Conference. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen, but Anthony Davis individually, I mean, could go down as potentially the best pick-and-roll big man ever for his ability to finish at the basket as well as hit a 15-foot jumper. He is developing his three-point shot as well. Super athletic, very good defensive player, intimidating around the rim. On both sides of the floor, he could dunk on you and he'll also block your shot. Now, I don't think he's perfect. I still think he has to improve on his post-up game, his back to the basket. But everything else, he's fantastic. He just needs some better teammates around him, and Anthony Davis will be fine. And he could still insert himself as one of the top 2 or 3 best players, and it might happen this season. Number 2, and this one was tough, 2 and 3. I'm going with Blake Griffin over Draymond Green for number 2. Blake Griffin averages about 22 to 25 points per game, and Blake Griffin's passing is very underrated as well. He was averaging 5 a game before he got hurt. And Blake, I understand that it's not always the prettiest with him. His post-ups don't look very Tim Duncan-esque with, beautiful hook shots and turnaround jumpers and up and unders, but he gets the job done. He backs guys down. He has some weird, awkward, directly under the basket layup that always goes in. Of course, he'll dunk on your face, too. And he's still a quality rebounder. As I mentioned, a very good passer, to the point where I'd actually like to see Doc Rivers get the ball to Blake in the post and kind of do what Golden State does with Draymond with his passing. So I think Blake Griffin is the 2nd best power forward in the NBA. He also has gotten better on his free throw shooting and his mid-range jumper, although I do think Doc Rivers draws up a few too many plays that result in Blake mid-range jumpers and not enough Blake going to the basket, but even then, I think Griffin is still awesome. And then I'll have to put Draymond Green at number 3, with his ability to stretch the floor and have the offense run through him, even though he's a power forward, whether it be handoffs on the top of the key or dribbling from side to side. Of course, he's a very good passer, so you can get it to him in the post, and then Steph and Clay and soon-to-be Kevin Durant can set screens for each other, and he can throw it across the floor to the wide-open shooter. Draymond's great. He can push the ball up floor. And then, of course, 2nd best defensive player in the league, in my opinion. So those are the top 3. Anthony Davis, Blake Griffin, Draymond Green. Number 4, I'm going to go with LaMarcus Aldridge. Possibly the best post scorer in the NBA today. Dirk might be number 1, but I think LaMarcus Aldridge is not far down that list. One of the guys who's single-handedly keeping the mid-range jumper alive in today's NBA. He's pretty much automatic if he's left open. If the Spurs run a pick and pop, you have to make sure that Aldridge is covered or else it's going to go in. It's pretty much a guarantee. He's a good defensive player. He's not a lockdown guy. He's not going to kill you defensively either. I would only pretty much trust him when it comes to defending around the basket, but even then, and this might be just a part of the San Antonio defensive system because it's so good, Aldridge is good enough on that side of the floor on top of how good he is offensively to where I still think he's number 4 here. Number 5, Paul Millsap, who has kind of reinvented himself as he's gone on in his career, was pretty much just a guy around the basket in Utah, and now in Atlanta he's hitting mid-range jumpers. He's okay from 3. He shoots 32%, so he's not going to intimidate you from out there, but he's still kind of okay if you leave him wide open from 3. But yeah, very good mid-range shooter, and has ability to put the ball on the floor, very good around the basket, Doesn't post up as much as he did in Utah, but he's still alright. A really smart player and pretty solid defensively as well, Millsap. Ability to switch on some guys. I mean, he's kind of like a not as good Draymond with his ability to hit mid-range and defend multiple positions at the 4 spot. He's gotten more athletic as he's gotten older, which, I mean, kudos to him. Millsap has really, like I mentioned, just kind of transformed his game as he's gotten older here, and now he's, he was one of the 15 or 20 best players in the NBA last season. He was the best player for the Atlanta Hawks. As for some other guys, Chris Bosh, who is a power forward, it's really close between him and Millsap. They're both pretty similar players. I would give Millsap the edge just a tad because of his defense. I think he's just better at defending more positions and being a bit more agile. But Chris Bosh is awesome as well. Hopefully he'll still have an NBA career. We don't know how his health is going to be the next few seasons. Derek Favors is itching to get on this top 5 list. I feel like he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. He really needs to work on that mid-range jumper. He took a lot last season, about almost 3 a game. He shot around 35%, not super intimidating from 15 feet, but he's damn good around the basket and posting up. So if Derek Favors can develop a little bit of an outside shot, I could see him skyrocketing on this list, honestly, with how much potential he has. Serge Ibaka is a nice player, but he doesn't really create his own shots the way some of these other guys do, so I can't put him up there. Dirk is still very good offensively, and you never want to leave him open from 3 or from mid, as he's still one of the best shooters in the NBA. But Dirk has a really tough time on defense at this point in his career. I mean, there were times last year for the Mavericks where he was basically in quicksand on defense. So, and then as for Kevin Love, I mean, similar to Dirk, he's not very good defensively, and his offense has dipped since he's made it to Cleveland. The Minnesota Kevin Love I might contemplate putting up here because he was such a beast on offense and rebounding-wise. Guy averages 16 points and he's a mediocre defensive player. I don't think you're going to get on here.